Welcome to the Wild Grace podcast with me, Kenzie, and Natalie. We're so excited to be here today. It's actually a perfect next episode after our garment discussion last time. It's a really good segue into purity culture. So this is a little bit more of a mature topic for sure. We're going to be talking a little bit about sex, nothing graphic by any means, but definitely more mature. And we're really excited to talk about it though. We'll take a deep breath. And we're going to go ahead and get started though with a prayer from Natalie.
Yeah.
And then we can start.
Okay. God, thank you so much for this opportunity. Kenzie and I have to come together to talk about purity culture, kind of a taboo subject, Lord. And we ask for the Holy Spirit to be present, that we might be able to talk about and understand what you teach about our bodies and purity, Lord, and how it can heal us from things that might be damaging from purity culture, Lord. And we ask for that freedom found in you. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. And if you don't mind, Natalie, I'm just going to say really quick that I had never even heard the term purity culture until just recently.
Yeah.
I had never even heard it.
We just lived it.
We lived it because so I immediately knew what it was. I just had never put a name with it. And I just found that kind of interesting that like this thing is very real, very huge and controlling. And I didn't even know that it had a name.
Right. Yeah. Me neither. I remember us just talking this year through our Bible study, and we're like, wait a second, there's a whole term around this.
Whole term. Yeah.
So if you're not familiar or aren't sure of like exactly what purity culture is, what we're talking about, it's like around high demand religion, but also just society and our culture. And it's sexuality framed primarily that it's dangerous and that it's tied to your worth.
That your purity is tied to your worth.
Yes, your purity is tied to your worth. And it's a heavy focus on women's bodies and how women's bodies are responsible for men's thoughts. And it's also like modesty is taught as a moral obligation rather than a wisdom.
Which is what we talked about last time.
Yeah, with garments. And it's purity culture is shame-based motivation instead of knowledge and transformation from within, the why behind it. And so that's in a nutshell what purity culture is. And so what does that generate? You know, I mean, we lived it.
A lot of negativity.
Yeah.
Generates a lot of negativity.
Yeah. How can that be damaging? You know, if you grow up that way, whether you're in a high demand religion, for us in the LDS church, but I know a lot of high demand religion, a lot of their members experience the same thing, and culturally as well.
Yeah. So it's not just unique to like Mormonism.
Yeah.
It can be kind of anywhere. And honestly, I think it's everywhere. Now that like if I think about it, in the patriarchal system and world that we live in, it's kind of just everywhere, just to different like varying levels or degrees. And so obviously what we know is the extent of it in Mormonism, which in my opinion is pretty intense.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense.
And just from our experience, like modesty, as we talked about last episode, and it starts being tied to your worth. In the LDS church, they have worthiness interviews where you meet with a bishop, like a male figure, and they determine if you are worthy or not for, you know, entering their temple or whatnot. And
or even holding a calling.
And
any position of like leadership or anything.
And so much of that worthiness is tied to your sexuality. And they ask you these personal questions. And so it is very tied to your worth. And I remember growing up that like sexual behavior and sexual sin was very high ranked to like murder.
Yeah, it's right next to it.
Yeah. Like, it's like, you do this outside of marriage and young, like you are so bad.
So bad.
It's so evil. It's so looked down upon. And that creates so much fear. And then this like compounding effect where you become like afraid of your body, afraid of other people. And it's just a spiraling effect.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. 100%. If you don't mind, I'm gonna just dive into, like, my childhood
Yeah,
experience.
let's hear it.
So I'm the oldest daughter, so there's only 3 kids in my family, me, my sister, and my brother, but I was the oldest, and my dad, who is no longer with us on Earth, he did pass away about 5
Ooh.
years ago, so I yes, he can hear this, but and he knows I love him so much. But he was very intense because he was a cop. Again, it's not like I'm like fully blaming, I don't blame him. He saw the worst of the worst and he just wanted to protect his girls, but he was very overprotective for
Mm,
sure with us. He educated us very well, but a lot of anything that had to do with sex was very fear-based. Like everything was extremely negative. So I kind of had this double whammy in my life because I was being taught the very strict rules of the church. And then I was also like, it was very fear-based, like, don't do this, don't be alone with boys, like no touching boys. Like it was just like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
so much fear, and my little personality was very obedient, like I didn't question anything, and very fearful. Like I was so scared. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm never gonna do that. Like, oh my gosh, that's so scary, and I'll do anything to avoid that. And so I like breaking a rule was not even on the table for me,
Mm,
right? There was no curiosity, like no exploration, experimentation. Like I was like, no, I'm not. Like the line's over there, then I'm going to be on the other side of the field.
yeah.
But growing up, like with hindsight now, I can see just how incredibly tied my worth was to my obedience
Mm,
and to my purity,
mm,
right? And it was like I didn't just keep the rules. Like I was slave to them
mm.
and I followed all of them to a T. And I did not I knew the handbook in and out. I know we've kind of talked about that. But I didn't have any boyfriends. I wasn't allowed,
Mm.
but I couldn't, like, hang out with boys, I couldn't, I wasn't allowed to, like, hug boys, like, that was a bad thing because it was my
Oh,
body pressed against their body,
yeah. And this was, like,
and
all through your teenage years?
yeah,
Like
oh, and young
yeah.
childhood.
Okay.
Young childhood, like, I'm sorry, dad, like, RIP, rest in peace, but I did have a traumatic experience where I got in big trouble just because I kissed a boy on the cheek, like, it was a dare, and I kissed a boy on the cheek so innocent at recess in 5th grade.
You devil.
I know. No, for real though. For real. And also I was a whole year younger than everyone. So I was probably like, I don't even know, like 9 or something. And I'm just this little, so innocent little girl. And I kissed this cute boy on the cheek and run away. And I felt so guilty. Oh my gosh, sick to my stomach guilty.
Mm.
Told my parents and I got in big trouble from my dad. Like it was so
Oh.
I look back, I'm like, it was so traumatic because from there on out, I was like, I liked boys, but I was so scared of them. Like, don't do
You're
anything
like,
with a
"I'm gonna
boy.
get in trouble." Yeah.
Yeah, and it was all bad and I never had a boyfriend in high school. I mean, of course I was allowed to date and everything, but
Like, you could go to school dances.
yeah, I could go to school dances once I was 14, of course. And then I could date when I was 16. And like I even had, a first kiss. It was very like, oh, a tiny little peck, right? But
Mhm.
besides that, there was nothing else. Like making out, oh my gosh, worst thing in the world. I would never girls I heard that did that and boys, I was like, they're bad kids, like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, it was a lot. I I look back though and I'm like, my worth was so tied to
Mhm.
my purity and to my obedience. And I remember all the young women lessons. Like, I remember a majority of them were around not only modesty, but sexual purity. And it was so like fear and shame based. And it was, like, oh, if you do this with a boy, it's going to lead to this. And it's like so 0 to 60. Like,
Yeah.
worst case scenario is that you have premarital sex, which is like, I mean, the one of the biggest sins,
Right,
like
they
as a
treated
Mormon.
it as, like, close to murder,
Oh my gosh,
like we
yeah.
said.
Well, and it's
So scary.
so taboo and like, oh my gosh, if you did that,
Yeah.
it was like your life was over.
It was very taboo, like, you couldn't even talk about it. Like, it just felt, like, awkward and
Well, and it was like, "Hey, if that happens, you have to go to the bishop, and you have to tell them, and then you can't take the
which is
sacraments."
so shame-based as well because it's like, then you can't take this sacrament, and then everybody around you is looking and be like, "Oh, why aren't they taking this
Because the
sacrament?"
only reason you don't take the sacrament is if you're not worthy.
Yeah. When that should be flipped. It's
It should be completely flipped.
like, that's when you need Jesus,
Yeah.
not like this disconnection where God's like, "I'm not with you." Like, that is a huge counter to what Jesus teaches in the Bible. He says, "I will never leave you." And that teaching, I think, is really toxic in the LDS church of that the Holy Spirit will leave you
Yeah.
and be like, "You are unclean. You are not in a holy place, so I'm out." You
No,
know?
we were taught that, I mean, verbatim.
Uh,
I remember being taught and told that, like, the spirit leaves you, and you have to be worthy for you to get it back.
yeah.
Yeah, which can be, by the way, like a year-long process. It kinda depends on your bishop and stuff, but if you commit, like, a sexual sin, then sometimes it can be like, well, this is gonna be a year before you're worthy again.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, especially, before a mission or before marriage, like,
Yeah.
you gotta wait a year before you can go back in the temple. I think that's maybe changed?
I don't know. It was like that for us growing up. I remember
Yeah.
if like a couple, they were intimate before they got married, then it's like, oh, you can't have your celestial marriage now. You have to
Mhm.
wait a year. So then some couples will opt into getting married
Civilly.
civilly
Mhm.
and then wait a whole year to be sealed in the temple, even though they're
Yeah.
already married and like they were already
Yeah.
committed to each other.
Yeah, but in the LDS church, they're telling you that, like, okay, yeah, you're married civilly, but you're still not worthy to, like, be together forever, right? It's like this
Hmm.
this thing they hold over your head. Like, nope,
Yeah.
you're not really together, not eternally. Like,
Yeah.
if you guys died, you would be separated. And I, like, can't believe I believed that.
Yeah.
It's nuts to look back and think that, um but that's how severe
Hmm.
it is.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my gosh, like the fear around that and the guilt and the shame. Anyway, I wanted to say though, kind of like going back to my childhood and my upbringing, and this is like super honest, transparent, very vulnerable me sharing this story and how I feel about it, but I want to share it. I like felt like I was kind of a purity prize, and I would have never labeled it like that back then. But I was a poster child for what a Mormon girl should be. I dressed modestly my whole life. I didn't go around kissing boys. I didn't have boyfriends. I didn't date before I was 16. I never made out with a boy. Like, I never was alone with a boy. Like, I don't know if you can get more clean or pure, by the
Yeah.
church's standards. And I thought that was amazing.
Mm.
Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, whatever boy I marry is going to be so lucky because I'm so clean.
Wow.
And like that, I tied my worth to that, and people around me did too.
Mhm.
Like, I was always praised for how obedient I was.
Yeah.
And like with that verbiage, like, "Oh, Mackenzie, you're so obedient. You're so good. You're
You're
so
gonna be
good and
so
obedient.
blessed.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
you're gonna be so blessed." Like, and you are being so blessed. And it's like everything I did, anything that was good in my life was tied to my righteousness. Well, it's
Mm.
because I don't do this, and it's because I do listen and I do obey and I follow
Mm.
these rules. And
It's so conditional.
so conditional, and I'm so safe. Like, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm so safe. And I graduated high school. I was still only 17. I went to BYU, which, let's talk about BYU. I went to BYU for a year, but I had already met my husband, Taft, when I was still in high school. He just got back from a mission. And so he is a return missionary, which also in LDS culture is like, you have to marry a return missionary. That was a big
Mhm.
deal. And we dated very on and off. And then once I went to BYU, we started dating more seriously, but he was my first boyfriend, and then he was my last. Like, I never had another boyfriend because, I like, once we started talking about marriage, which I look back, I'm like, that's crazy. I was only 18.
Mm.
And this was my first boyfriend, like my first relationship that I felt like I was allowed to have now, right? Because I'm like, okay, I'm 18, I'm in
I'm
college,
allowed.
I'm
That must
allowed.
mean yeah.
Yeah, and, so it's the first time that once we started talking about marriage, it felt appropriate to, like, start making out.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like so funny to me even to say like right now, but then I look back and I'm like, it just felt this like like naturally, okay, the next steps are to get married. Like if I'm doing this with this boy and we were not doing anything more than making out. Like this was me we're talking about. We didn't do anything
No
else.
necking.
No touching, no like, I don't even know like PG-13 movie stuff. Nothing like that.
Just so those that don't know, necking was in the handbook of like these worthiness interviews. It's like, what does that mean?
Necking,
No.
petting. It was like all these gross, at least they still feel gross to me.
Yeah.
But no, these things were spelled out.
Yeah.
Very spelled out, like do not do. And they called making out passionate kissing. Let me just tell you this, everyone, this is so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing, but I'm just going to tell you to prove how, like, I don't even know what to call it. Nerdy Mormon, like, is prude the word? Is prude?
I don't know.
I think prude is like when you're like super self-righteous kind of. I don't know.
Right.
Here I am in college. One of my first BYU classes. I'm an English major. Love English, love writing. We're in this class. We're given like, I think a persuasive essay topic or assignment. And I wrote a persuasive essay on why we shouldn't make out. Even in college, I wrote this.
What? Why we shouldn't make out?
It's so embarrassing.
Do you still have it?
I hope not. I really hope not, because I wrote it and I was like I quoted prophets and the For Strength of Youth pamphlet everywhere where it was like no passionate kissing. And I just wrote how it was like, it was bad to make out before you were married or something. Or maybe it was, I don't remember what like age limit I gave, but yeah, that was my essay. And I felt comfortable enough sharing it. Like
almost
I had to
cried
I had
into
to
it
present
of like,
it.
You did?
Yes.
In front of the class?
Yes, thank heavens it was a small class because it was a summer class. But I look back and I'm like, what? What was I thinking? But that's how
I'm sure
needed.
Well, I'm sure like in that setting, a lot of people in the class were like, yeah.
I don't know. I think that they even were like, this girl's nuts. Like, this poor girl. Like, for sure, some of the boys in it, I'm sure were like, okay, she's like never going to talk to her. Maybe some of the other girls thought that.
Like, dang it, I was going to ask her out on a date.
I don't know. But no, that's how like kind of crazy I was. Like that's how much I was into it.
Well, it just shows the like building blocks of that, what that creates, how it is tied to your worth. And from a young age, how that is going to affect you as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like your nervous system holds on to it and being like, if you're taught over and over and over that this isn't safe, your body's gonna be like, red flag, not safe, not safe. And you put up a billion walls.
Oh, yeah. Well, and everything's so black and white. It's either good or it's bad.
Yeah.
And so very easily you get all the bad stuff. And it's like, what's good is, okay, you can hold hands and maybe do a little like peck on the lips. That was like it. Well, everything else was considered bad.
Yeah.
But no, I look back and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I felt so much. Well, there's so much pressure in the Mormon church to get married young and then immediately have kids. I was pregnant when I was 19, like married at 18 to my first boyfriend, pregnant at 19. And so all I've known now is like marriage and kids,
I think a lot of the young marriages happen because of a result of purity culture, because it's like so
100%.
extreme abstinence without the why behind it that they feel these natural desires and then they like
natural arousal.
Yeah, that they're like, okay, I have to get married to even explore that. Like then that results in very, very early marriage.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, oh, I'm okay now.
Well, and it's super normalized again because it's encouraged, right? This really young marriage, and it's encouraged to prevent premarital sex.
Yeah,
like it's like okay, they keep lowering the missionary age.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, you are in a youth program you're in a youth program since the moment you're born. Like you go to nursery and then primary when you're like what 3 or 4. Yeah.
because nursery starts at 18 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So then you're in primary, and then once you enter young men's and young women's, that's from 12 to 18. And so you're taught all these things. And now once you're 18, you can immediately leave and go on a mission, which a mission is like super, super strict as far as the rules go for those 2 years, and so you're immersed in the gospel, which I'm not saying is bad, but they teach you as a missionary when you're, like, at the end of your mission, they're like, "Okay, your next step is to get married." Like, you go home and you date to get married.
Yeah.
You're 18, okay, now you're leaving, you're 20.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually unheard of outside of Utah. Like,
Mhm.
most people aren't getting married till, like, they're in their 30s.
Right.
But you get married and then you have kids, like,
And
immediately.
what's also hard is with it being so taboo, at least like that was for me, where you don't talk about it. It's very fear-based, shame-based. You just don't talk about it. And then you get married, and all of a sudden you have this green light, and it's been taboo for so long. And all of a sudden it's like, okay,
Now it's
and then you're like, "Oh, wait, how can my brain wrap around this?" And my nervous system. So if you have these, like, blocks and you don't understand it, then you're like, "Something's wrong with me."
Oh, yeah.
It creates such, like, a toxic, like, result.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And they tell you, like, okay, the longer you spend single, the greater your risk is of having premarital sex. And again, that's like such a bad sin. And they teach the atonement. Yes, they're like, yes, you can always repent, you can come back from it, right? But at the same time, it's like you can come back from it, like Jesus will forgive you, but also you can never undo that.
Like,
You
what
know?
was that analogy of the crumpled up
There's so many different ones. What I don't know the
paper
crumpled up
or
paper,
something?
a chewed piece of bubble gum,
Yeah.
a licked cupcake. Like, these are all object lessons that they give the young women, not the young men, by the way. They give the young women sometimes when they're teaching sexual purity, because the whole point is, like, if you have sex before marriage, you crumple up the paper.
Yeah.
Even afterward, after you repent,
And flatten it
you try to
out.
flatten it out,
It's
you
not the same.
it's not the same. A chewed up
Mhm.
piece of gum, not the same. You can't unchew it. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, now you're not a virgin for your future husband. And it's like, that might be a deal breaker for him.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to tell him, like, I've had sex before, and it's gonna be this huge disappointment, and you might have to find another boy who's also had sex before. And it's like just so shame based. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm talking so much.
No, you're
But
good.
another thing that you reminded me of is, so what I was saying is, like, they're like, don't spend a lot of time single
Yeah.
because it's dangerous. So hurry and get married so that it's appropriate. I have heard of, well, I want to talk about stuff that goes on at BYU, but even just people, they'll get married, like they'll elope in Vegas so that they're married. So civilly, they're married. It's not like they're married in the temple, but
Mm.
they'll hurry and get married just so that it's okay to have sex. And then they'll get it annulled
Oh my gosh, this ties right into loopholes.
just to avoid, like, no, we were married. Like, we were technically married,
Yeah.
so it's fine. And then
It's
now we're not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's all based on the, like, letter
Letter
of
of
the
the law.
law, not the spirit. It's like, where is your heart in it? But it's like, well, technically, we did it this way, so then I'm still worthy.
Exactly.
But then their heart is in a completely different place because they're trying to
They're
find loopholes.
right.
Which, what loopholes are there now? Have we heard?
Oh, man. I mean, do we dare? Like, can we
I
say
don't think
them?
I even know all of them.
Oh, I don't.
If
I'm so naive.
I know I was so naive too, but in BYU Provo area, there's a lot of secretive loopholes that go around. If you're familiar with
Okay, because BYU is the church's college.
yes.
The university, Brigham Young University, and you have to abide by the honor code, which includes sexual purity, meaning no sexual relationships or anything, like no sexual activity
Yeah.
before marriage.
Very
And
tied to also like the LDS worthiness interviews.
yes,
Like it's very hand in hand.
yeah, like yeah. If you go to BYU, you are expected to abide by those, and so you get all these young college kids at BYU,
Raging hormones.
and these kids are out of their homes, right? And, like,
Yeah.
out of the house for the first time, and they're all, I mean, probably, 95% of them are LDS that go there, and I don't know, I just pulled that number out of my head, but you get them doing insane things.
The loopholes to
The
letter of the
loopholes.
law where they are like, I'm still technically worthy, but I'm going to find a way around it.
Yeah, so they do the weirdest things, you guys, to have sex without having sex. Like, there's not the I don't even know I don't even wanna say the
Okay,
words,
okay.
like,
I'll say one that I know of. It's called soaking.
but you're gonna have to explain that now.
I know. Well, what I've heard is technically it's like they will be close and like, but not like move, if that makes sense. So their bodies are together and they won't move. So technically they're not having sex.
What, are they naked or not?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
full blown. And
Full-blown
I'm
naked,
like, that's just bad sex. What they're doing.
so they're just laying on each other?
Yeah, but like fully like,
Like, but penetration?
yeah.
Okay.
Uh, but
Okay.
technically they
See,
don't like climax or anything, and so that's like, we
right.
didn't do it.
Right. Okay. Yep. There are actually a lot of words for that. I've
Okay.
heard, okay, this is so gross. Like the word docking.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
Little park.
Parking? See, like that. What is that? Like,
Yeah.
so that's okay because they didn't actually like finish the act of sexual intercourse. I've
Yeah.
also heard of people putting on oven mitts. I'm not even joking. Like, this is real. We're not making this up. And I say that too because I have personally known police off like cops who work on the BYU campus and have told me about some of the stuff that they catch these kids doing in
Oh my
cars,
gosh,
in,
yeah.
dark alleyways, whatever. They'll put oven mitts on their hands and like make out and touch each other and stuff and be naked, but their actual hands, like their skin of their hands is not touching because they have a mitt on.
My gosh, and they're like, "It's fine."
And they're like, "Well, we didn't really touch."
My
No, I know.
gosh!
And so the crazy thing is, well, first of all, you will not get this anywhere else. There is no other college in the country that would have kids doing this. Why? Because they're just having normal sex,
Yeah.
which would be way better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just have normal sex. Like, okay, this is a funny story. I knew this hilarious guy who was a young adult. He was a BYU bishop. And I would talk to him and be like, he was so funny. But he was like, "Oh yeah, man, I'd get these BYU students coming in and they would tell me what they did because they would know." So some of these kids, you would have two things, right? Like some of them would be like, "I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have to go to the bishop." And then these other kids are like, that might have been something I need to talk to the bishop about." So there's like a little guilt there. And they go to the bishop and they're like, "So I did this. I did XYZ, but I didn't actually have sex." The bishop would
Mhm.
This guy, he was like, "Well, you might as well have just had sex. It would have been a lot better. Why did you do that?" Like, he would even say that to them.
Wow.
And but then you'd also get these kids that came in and they'd be like, "I don't think I really need to be here, but I'm just telling you, but I don't think I did anything wrong." And it's like, "Okay,
Just
why are you
checking
even
the
here then?"
box.
Yes, so they're
Uh-huh.
checking the box. They don't even really feel guilty anyway.
Mm.
So it's just this, man, it creates this dynamic of like, again, these secrets, the shame, the guilt, all the
Fear,
loopholes. Like,
control. Mm.
yeah, and like that is not.
I feel like it also creates, like with high demand religion, but culturally, just the over sexualization of the body.
Oh,
You
yes. Let's
know,
talk about that.
like this secretive, taboo subject, when it's tied to your worth, then it becomes this like subconscious over sexualization.
Mhm.
Um, and, with rules growing up, like no rated R movies. And what did that mean? Because rated R movies, usually there's some nudity and you just want to avoid that at all costs. And, I remember growing up and even when me and Dave were first married, like we wouldn't watch any shows and like that had anything to do with that. And it'd be like, cover your eyes and like completely shut it out. And I feel like,
I was the same way, by the way.
yeah, it just
That way.
creates this secretiveness and again, this compounding effect that your body, something's wrong with your body or that the body is shameful. And also that ties into, I remember being a first time mom and just like our physiology and our biology and the physiological processes of our body and just giving birth, that was somehow also sexualized. Like where I didn't even want to watch like myself give birth or have my husband watch because I'm like, we can't look. I don't want him to look. I don't want him to like have this skewed image in his head, like be ruined, and there'll be like subjects from or topics I'll hear from men being like, oh, don't watch when your wife gives birth, like it will be ruined for you,
Which is so messed up.
Isn't that so messed up? And it's like, birth is like one of the most beautiful processes, giving life, and how cool that you can experience that like whole process with your spouse being there to support you. But in the back of your head, if you're like, don't look, or I don't know, I
No,
just feel like that's so toxic.
I literally used the word gross about my own body giving birth. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't wanna look, that's gross. Oh my
Yeah.
hell.
Right.
And and that kind of stuff is very, I don't know if traumatizing is the right word, but, like, that sticks with you.
Mm.
Like, even aside from birth, just with our bodies and intimacy, like, this is something that is very relevant in my life right now because I just left the church this calendar year,
Mm.
and so much, like, I could have never predicted how much was gonna come up from me. Stuff I had no idea, like, that was just buried deep down.
Well, your nervous system held on to that. And now as an
Yeah.
adult, you are learning how to deal with it and heal from it.
Yes, yes, and it's hard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's painful to
Mhm.
be like, "Oh my gosh, I felt this way about my own body."
Scared of my body, shamed of my body.
Shame that, like, I still have problems with sex now. I have problems with intimacy, I have problems with sexual content and anything. It is so, like, I am having to expose myself in healthy ways, like sex education books and stuff, right?
Mhm.
To just normalize it for me because I'm 34 years old and my entire life it has been this super negative thing. And then I look back too, and I have all these issues around sex, like within my marriage too. And, now I can see why.
Yeah.
And before I
Mhm.
didn't have an explanation. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know why I'm this way. Like,
Yeah. Oh, something's
something's
wrong.
wrong with
Yeah.
me. And it's like, well, no shit. Like,
Yeah.
something's wrong with me. I've been
Mm.
told my whole life, like, one way.
100%
Ah,
can relate.
and it's painful, and
Well,
it's really hard to undo.
mm.
Like, really, it's so damaging. And thank God that I am figuring these things out right now before my daughters are, like,
Yeah, because then we
old
can
enough.
break those patterns and teach our kids.
Yes, and we are going to do that. Do you wanna talk about that right now? Should we just talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, that segues into, like, how do we wanna raise our kids
Yeah.
in like, how do you teach them about sex? Why would you want to wait, without this purity culture label, like this pressure where it's fear or shame or control based? How would we teach that? And I feel like before we dive into that, it's like, what is another layer of freedom from Jesus? What does he teach about it? And then that will help us to tie into like, how do
Yeah.
you teach your kids?
Yeah. No, it's been such a freedom. Again, that I can't describe, like, to just know that God was never tying my worth to my purity.
Yeah.
He was never tying my worth to my obedience, to how good I was and how clean and pure, and I just wish I could have known that then. But
Yeah.
it even right now though, like, in my life, while I do allow myself to just, like, experience feelings without shutting them down and being like, "That's sinful." Like,
Yeah.
even just not wearing garments, right? That's a really good
Yeah.
easy example. Not wearing garments and, like, dressing, quote, "immodestly" by the church's standards, but, like, just dressing that I feel cute, like, I wanna wear that, like, that's okay, and not having that be guilt-based or
Yeah.
fear-based of, like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, this is offensive to God." Like, no, Jesus is like, "I see you." And you know what? I was actually talking to Jesus on the drive over here because this is such a heavy topic. But, I thanked him, like, it's my relationship and my approach to God now is so different I mean, night and day, right? Because
Mhm.
now I don't feel like I have to prove myself to him anymore. Like,
Mm.
I realized that I followed all the rules to prove myself to God.
Yeah.
Now, when I talk to Jesus, I'm like, hey, I know it's been a minute since I've read the scriptures, like, but I don't feel like I have to do that to prove myself to him anymore. Like,
Mhm.
I don't even have to explain, like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And you know what? It's just what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm not going, whoa, whoa, I'm not allowed to feel that way. I shouldn't feel that way. Push it down. That's carnal. That's evil. The natural man. Like, I'm just like, hey, Jesus, you know my heart. And you know how freeing that is to be like, you know my heart. I don't have to prove myself to you.
Wow, I love that. And Jesus is all about the heart. And it's interesting that we're tying Jesus into this because when you hear the term purity culture, it is so tied to religion. And I think a lot of people think and they tie Jesus into that and they leave God altogether, when they are confused about the church
Hmm.
and stuff because they're like, oh, if a God is just going to leave me and is disappointed in me, I don't and he's surprised. Like, I don't want to worship that God. I don't believe in that God. When it's like, when you meet the God of the Bible and Jesus in the Bible, you're like, wow, he's different than what I was taught in religion because
Yeah.
Jesus, he is about the heart. He's not about shame. Or when we're talking about like sexuality in general, like that is designed by God. Like, hello, like God created us, so there's purpose behind it. It is not an evil thing. And desire is never condemned, it's the objectification of people that is. And I love just
So
like examples in the word how Jesus never shames people that are sexually broken. Like, and he touches the unclean, like people with leprosy. Like, he's never afraid of the body. He's never shaming people. I think
hmm.
of like the story of the woman at the well. Like this woman had five different
Yeah.
husbands, so she's got to be intimate with all of these men.
Yeah. She
And
was a promiscuous woman.
yeah, and it's like he brings it up, but he doesn't shame her and it's not
Mhm.
tied to her worth. Like he's
Right.
just like focused on her heart. And I also love how Jesus calls out that people are responsible for their own thoughts. And so within purity culture, how it says like, oh, women, like it's your fault if men, are aroused or,
Yeah.
end up watching porn because you were immodest. Like it's your fault. And it's like, no, that counters what Jesus says. He's like, no, in Matthew 5, like people are responsible
Yeah.
for their own thoughts.
Hmm.
It's no one else's responsibility.
Responsibility. You know what's interesting when you talk about like the woman at the well is I'm going through I mean every interaction with Jesus in his ministry with women is a beautiful a beautiful story.
Hmm.
Right? And the way he treats women is just so amazing. And
He's
it's
so good to women.
so good to women as it should be. Like he
Uh-huh.
treats them how they deserve to be treated
But
and
in
as
that
an equal
culture,
and in
it
that
was
culture.
just 10x.
Yes, yeah, it was unheard of, right? But
Mhm.
a lot of the stories of the women that he encounters, these are women who were condemned, like, of sexual sin. You've
Yeah.
got the woman at the well,
Yeah.
and then you have the unclean woman who comes in and, is kissing his feet, right? I wrote
Oh,
it down.
oh, yeah, or washes his
Oh,
feet
yes, yeah,
or
Luke it's
something.
in Luke 7. Yeah, it's in Luke 7, and, like, the Pharisees that are there are like, "Why are you letting her touch you?" Like,
Yeah.
"She's unclean." And he defends her, he always defends them. Same with
Yeah.
the woman caught in adultery. Like, here
Mhm.
she comes, by the law, she could be stoned to death right there,
Mhm.
and he doesn't condone the sin. He's not
Yeah.
like, "Oh, adultery's fine." No,
Uh-huh.
but he doesn't condemn her.
It's not tied to her worth.
No, it's not, it's
Mm-mm.
not, and he addresses the sin without destroying her identity,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Well, it's all about that, like, heart and transformation.
Yeah, yeah, and
That's what he focuses on.
well, and that's how these women walk away transformed.
Yeah,
These
they're like,
women
"Oh, I am loved just the way I am, and so then I
yeah,
want to be different."
yeah, he didn't force them, he didn't
Mm-mm.
shame them, he didn't say, "Now you deserve the punishment, like, you have to do this before you're worthy again." No,
Mhm.
he just loves them so unconditionally, that they're the ones that decide to change.
And that is the huge difference. Conditional love, or like with purity culture,
Mhm.
everything's on condition.
Yeah,
Whereas Jesus flips that upside down. His love is unconditional, and that's an inner transformation. That's grace.
that's grace. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. Wild grace. Very wild. And that ties into like, okay, so when you can understand, wow, that's a God I serve. And you teach that to your kids of that unconditional love, like that is a base. But then that also ties into like goals of how to teach your kids. I think it's understanding that unconditional love, but also the why behind waiting to be intimate until you're married rather than like you just wait because it's tied to your worthiness. It's like, no, you'll wait because on a biological level, there are things that happen in your body. And this is why. Like when you are intimate with somebody, you have these hormones, these chemicals that go off in your brain, whether you like it or not. Culture and society will say, like, oh, this is just casual, but your body's going to respond whether you like it or not. Where these chemicals are released, like dopamine or oxytocin, that
Mhm.
make you attached to somebody. And
Yeah.
if you are doing that like casually without like a committed relationship like marriage,
Yep.
then it ties into your nervous system, like we're talking about, where you are super vulnerable with somebody. Even though if society says this isn't a vulnerable thing, your body is like, yeah, it is.
Intimacy. It's a
And
very intimate thing.
Right. And if that pattern at a young age gets ingrained in your blueprint, in your nervous system, later on as adult, you are going to reap the rewards of that, of your body being like, whoa, this is not safe. Or I have a hard time trusting people because I got so attached to somebody chemically, like, and then it was casual, we're not together. Like,
Mhm.
and if that pattern arises, then your body's going to be super confused, you know, and it creates
Yeah.
problems down the road and other biological things of understanding the why of like, okay, this means like this act of being intimate, like this creative energy is designed by God and it's beautiful to create life. And at a young age, outside of a committed relationship, that is a very high risk of what could happen of
Right.
having a baby,
Right.
you know?
Right. And you know what? Like I wish that the church would teach that. Like, hey, these are the reasons why it is a special thing that you really should be careful with.
Hmm.
Rather than, because like the closest that I ever got to being taught that was like, if you do this, you could end up pregnant and then you're pregnant. Like, and now your life is basically ruined. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to be on that path now. Like, that was the
Yeah.
closest they came to a why, but it was so just like, again, fear based. And what
Hmm.
do we know about God and fear too? Like,
Right.
Jesus leads people out of fear and into freedom. Like, the
Yes.
opposite of fear could be just, you could say it's freedom, because
Oh,
fear
yeah.
is so controlling. But anyway, going back to just what you were saying, like, I wish that we would be taught, that just the even the biological, physiological sense of why is this something not to just be thrown around and like and be casual.
Yeah.
And
That there's
um
reasons, but it's not tied to your worth.
right. Yeah, and even like, you pleasure, right? The sense of pleasure that is part of sex, if you're doing that without, a prior commitment, or like you don't have a good deep relationship with someone, then it does objectify both people.
Mhm.
Like, so now you're using someone, like, just for pleasure, like, and
Yeah.
that's not, obviously not good. Like, that's not
Mhm.
healthy, and that's what pornography does,
Mhm.
right?
That's
Like,
where the
completely
objectification. Yeah.
objectifies people and dehumanizes them. And, it's this kinda goes back to what we were talking about with BYU and the rules, but it's so taboo, it's so forbidden, it's so negative that it creates this underground, like, black market for it. And then you have, problems like Utah being one of the states in the country with the highest porn consumption rate
Right. Yeah.
because it's so like forbidden.
It's like so taboo, so fear and shame based that then it's secretive. There's this analogy that reminds me of
Mm.
like when somebody's driving and they're getting in a car crash and there's one pole or one tree in this like whole field and they're like, I don't want to hit it. I don't want to hit it. And then they like hit it.
That's all they're looking at.
Yeah.
Don't think about an elephant.
Yeah.
Right? Or is that saying like,
Yeah, it's like subconscious of you're just like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And then you're going to run right into what you don't want. And that ties into the over sexualization when it's secretive. And then it creates this bad pattern of like, yeah, porn and the secrecy and objectification. And yeah, you're focused on what you don't want. And then it creates that result.
well, and our bodies as women are so over sexualized. It's like, oh my gosh, this just popped in my head doing yoga. Know that people had a feet fetish?
Oh, I've heard of that.
Like it's sexual. And I don't, again, I'm so naive. I totally can acknowledge I'm so sheltered. I did grow up in the Utah bubble, but like I had no idea. It's like I would get weird comments, and of course I'd block these people, these men. But I have heard now that there are apps and stuff where it's like foot pornography.
Yeah,
Where they like send in pictures of their feet, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, okay, so now even our feet, but I mean, women's shoulders. It goes into the whole modesty thing, and it's why we grew up, hearing a bikini was so bad, right? Because again, it's like, nope, any part of your body that's not just like your elbow down and your knee down, like it's sexual,
or even if it's too tight.
If it's too tight,
Yeah.
oh gosh. I mean, you could say it all the way to like your jewelry. It's just everything was like over sexualized and your makeup. And it's like, don't wear this, don't wear that. Don't, too much, red lipstick, too much makeup. And it's like, you look like a prostitute, It's like, what? We have so many rules, so many things. Oh, it's so hard.
It is hard. But there is freedom in Jesus. It flips that of instead of conditional love, it's unconditional.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh. The story, and I have to give credit here to ChatGPT. I was doing a study before this podcast of how Jesus contradicts purity culture. And it pointed out the prodigal son
Let's
as
hear it.
a story like that totally teaches it. And I loved it because like, I love the stories of the women, of course, but I love that this was an example of a man because, and this is in Luke 15. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the story, but the prodigal son, he violated every moral expectation. Like he went out and, he was a drunk and he spent all his money. And I'm sure it was a lot on prostitutes because he was very promiscuous and like led this very immoral life. And he's shameful, right? He's full of guilt, full of shame. He returns completely broken. I mean, from the inside out, right? Doesn't even think he's worthy to be anything more than his father's servant. And like, he just knows he'll eat better than pig food that he was given at one point. But he comes home and he expects punishment, right? He expects shame and disappointment from his father. And I have to, compare that to how the LDS views something like that, right? Like it is guilt and shame based. Like you should feel guilty. Like they teach you that. If you don't, something's wrong, right? Like you should feel guilty for it. And guilt is now actually like a good driving force, which I'm not saying it doesn't have its place, but he comes home in guilt and shame. And then, as far as the LDS, we already talked about this, like then there's the confession. And then you have to go through the whole, well, now you're unworthy process and the denial of the sacrament, the inability to do things. Basically, you lose access to God.
Yeah.
And because you're seen as unworthy. And that's what this son is returning home kind of expecting. Yeah. Right? And how is he welcomed?
Open arms.
Oh my gosh. The father runs out to him, runs to him in just joy and embraces him. And this is what ChatGPT pointed out that I was like, oh my gosh, like mind blowing. The father restores before the behavior changes. So like the restoration of this son preceded the repentance.
Yeah.
Like he loved him before there was any sort of like punishment or consequence or disappointment. It was love first. It's like he restored him first. I mean, that's what Jesus did with all the women too. That's what Jesus did with anyone he met. He restores you first and then you want to be better.
Right.
and you
It's
change.
that inner transformation of that
Yeah.
grace and love, unconditional love. It changes everything.
Yeah. It's not, I'm going to follow these rules and I'm going to repent in order to
Be
be
loved.
loved
Yeah.
and
I'm
be
so
worthy.
loved that, wow, I
Yeah.
want to do
You
things
want
different.
to. And
Yeah.
we have both felt
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So it's just it was such a beautiful story. But um yeah, I guess I want to go back to like just how we're approaching this with our kids now too, and I have teenagers now. I've got two boys,
You're in
two,
it.
two teenage boys. And I actually did have a discussion recently with Taft and it went really well, which I'm so thankful for. And to be fair, Taft was not raised the way I was raised. So even though he was raised Mormon, he had a lot more freedom. I feel like boys just in general have a lot more freedom in the culture. Do you agree?
It was pretty strict for Dave.
Was it? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
So
glad you
I
said
think
that.
it just
Okay.
depends on the
It depends.
family.
It depends. Because I guess I say that because when a boy, it feels like when a boy is like promiscuous, it's like, that's just how boys are. Like, he's such a player kind of a thing. Whereas when girls are like that, it's like, it's way more serious. And it's like, oh, she's a slut. You know what I
Oh my
mean?
gosh, yeah.
Because that's
Uh-huh.
definitely how it was in high school. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
the boys, it's like you just kind of roll your eyes and you're like, of course they're like that. But then if the girls are like that, it has this different
Yeah. Oh,
attitude.
I can see that.
So anyway, Taft grew up a lot more normal, I would say. But, when we were first married and we first had kids, I was like, oh, I got to raise my kids the same way I was raised. Like, they're
Yeah.
not going to do this, 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 and this, and this. And now, like, we are going to approach it so differently. Like, thank God.
Mm,
I don't want it to be a taboo thing. I
mm,
want to normalize it in my house. I want
mhm.
them to know the real reasons why we're careful and it's not
Right.
just a thing to be taken lightly.
Right. I think one thing that was really big of healing my purity culture mindset from growing up was my later pregnancies of I felt like I was learning my body for the first time, but
Oh
I
yeah, me
invited
too.
my kids into it too of like learning an actual anatomy and not being like that's taboo. It's like this is educational and,
Yeah.
just teaching from a young age so there's not this like secrecy around it.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, this is natural. This is just how the human body looks. It is.
Yes. Yes, and I have a friend I want to bring on as a guest speaker because she's a doula, so she's really into birth, but she's awesome. But she's taught me a few things, but one of the things that she has, said that she does with her daughters, her daughter, sorry, who's only like 4. So
Mm.
so young, is even just using the right vocabulary
Oh,
for
yeah.
like the anatomy of our bodies.
Yes.
Like, not only has purity culture, not only does it affect like sexual stuff, but even like forget sex, the anatomy of our bodies as a
Yeah.
woman. I, to this day, right now, like what I'm trying to work through is the ability to just say anatomical terms.
Yeah. Do you know okay, this is kind of
I
embarrassing.
like,
I didn't even know that the whole area down there was called vulva instead of vagina. It's just like the whole term growing up, again, it's over sexualized. That's just the name of it down there. It's like, just know your anatomy,
I
you know?
know, I know. Well, it's like, no, I know it's so hard. And something I learned in like the sex education book, it's called, it's really famous. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot the name. It's that one that I sent you. Do you remember the name of it?
Was it a
It's on
what was it?
Audible.
A
I can
video?
look it up.
Oh, a book.
Anyway, like I learned that even the Latin roots for the names of women's private parts and like reproductive parts and everything were like they are rooted in shame. Because men, again, the patriarchal world, but men named them. So anyway, it's like no wonder why the world is the way it is. And it's no wonder that we have so much shame and like we have so much unlearning to do.
Right.
So much
That's why
unlearning.
it's not just a high demand religion thing, it's a culture thing and humans making it that way.
Yeah, because again, like you said, what's called Come As You Are by Emily Nagowski.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Come As You Are. It's so good. But when you said, just right before we started recording this, that sex is designed by God. that was like a mind-blowing thing for me to just to hear because, all my life I'm like, no, sex is bad. Sex is bad. Sex is bad. Sexual
Mhm.
desire, arousal, like, anything erotic, like it's bad, 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 bad. It's only good in, a marriage, only for, having kids. But to be like, wait a second, God designed this, so it
God
can't be all
des
that bad.
God designed this process. He designed
Yeah.
our bodies. He designed pleasure,
Yeah,
like,
he did.
for it to be a good experience. And so just remembering of that, of, like, where's the, like, heart behind that? And I feel like that's, I mean, okay, so sex is this creation to be one with God, almost, to create life.
Yeah.
Huge. And what does the enemy do? He takes this most beautiful thing and tries to distort it. And I think that that's probably why it's so ingrained culturally, worldwide, so big, is because
Yeah.
it's such a gift. And the enemy's like, no, I'm going to take what God made so great and cause it for disconnection, cause it for pain. And there's so many layers to that. But yeah, just remembering that it's designed by God and it is a good thing. But sometimes the right thing at the wrong time can cause pain.
Right. And I
You
love
know?
that you phrase it like that.
Mhm.
Instead of sex being bad, sex is a good thing, but at the wrong time or for
Mhm.
the wrong intent. And I love how you just said, you pointed out, like, sex, if you think about it, really, truly, the act of, that can produce creation and life itself.
Mhm.
And ultimately, too, like, you want, like, sex should be a product of love. It
Yeah.
really should be. Can't
Mhm.
think of any scenario where it shouldn't. So you have love and creation as the two most powerful forces on earth.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Satan takes those. And for as good and powerful as they are, he makes it so evil. That is where we get the most evil things on earth, the suffering.
Mhm.
The worst suffering comes at the hands of sexual abuse, sex trafficking, child trafficking, pornography, like rape, all these things.
Abortion,
Abortion.
you
Oh
know,
my gosh.
when it's, like,
Yes. Like
life
murder.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
And I don't like to talk about it, honestly, but just to remember that God, first of all, loves us unconditionally.
That we're not broken. It's like we can
Yeah.
take what we feel, this brokenness, and we don't have to carry that, and we give it over to Jesus. It's not tied to our worth. He sees us. He's not surprised by our desires or, these feelings that we have. He's not surprised, and he wants us to just hand it over to him.
Yeah. And he's not disappointed in them either.
Yeah.
He's like, actually, I made you like this.
Yeah, he's like, "I get it.
I
Let's
get
work
it.
together."
Yeah. And, I guess what I want to end with is kind of leaving our audience, and I'm totally like putting us on the spot because we did not talk about this before, but like some suggestions or advice, not that we're therapists or anything, but like what can we help or what can we tell people to do who are struggling with the damaging effects of maybe sexual abuse, trauma, whether it's from an experience or high demand religion? Because I would definitely, and my therapists do too, so it's not just me, like they classify what I'm going through and what I've been through as religious trauma. Like this is religious trauma. But like, what do we do to heal? When you say, hand it over to Jesus, what does that mean? What does that look like, to
Yeah.
help people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like all I can speak on is from my personal experience because, I mean, I've definitely dealt with purity culture and religious trauma as well. But from my personal experience, I was sexually abused as a kid. And it's like carrying that weight as well, tied with purity culture, of feeling like something is wrong with me. I'm broken. And that's heavy. And I'm dealing with it as an adult.
And that wasn't your choice
Right.
either.
And I've come through my healing process. There's been a lot of layers. One is getting to know the heart of Jesus, and his character has been huge because I grew up in that very religious mindset that God's disappointed in me. He's going to leave me, and letting go of that belief of God and realizing who God really is. That in itself has healed me. I'm like, he sees me for me, and understanding that my trauma, my hurt was never like, God didn't want that, like he didn't put me through that to test me. And it's like these parts of me that feel broken, how I've handed that over is knowing that like this is heavy, I can't carry it. It's an act of like surrender of like, I'm handing this to you. Cause I feel like in Christian culture, you'll hear the phrase of like bringing your sin to the foot of the cross or whatever. But for me, what resonates for me also is like our traumas, our hurt, our brokenness, and handing that over in that surrender. Also, what's helped me is understanding the like biological and nervous system response when I feel broken, of realizing, whoa, that is a nervous system response. There's nothing wrong with me. And how do I feel safe? What are things that I can do to help my nervous system regulate before, to reset my brain? And I feel like that's been layers of healing as well.
Yeah, I would say so for sure educating yourself. Like you just made me think of the book, The
Mhm.
Body Keeps the Score. Like if
Yes.
you have any trauma, actually anyone should read it. Absolutely everyone should. But that book talks about like the biological, physiological, the mind body connection of what happens inside your body and how it presents itself in physical symptoms from trauma.
Yes.
So
Knowledge is power.
knowledge is power.
I learned that when I was learning about birth. More I knew,
Oh,
it like
yes.
extinguished fear. And the more you know about like the biological responses, what Jesus says actually in the word, the more you know, that cancels out fear.
Yeah. Yeah, and guilt. When
Yeah.
you know Jesus, you're like, "Wait, he loves me no matter what, and he didn't teach this," right? Like, he
Mhm.
didn't say that, and he doesn't want me to feel this way. And can I ask you something? A, like, a sexual abuse survivor, do you do you feel like you had responsibility in it? Like, did you feel unclean, like you had committed sexual sin? Because I do have other friends and like people who will talk about it and they're like, they feel dirty.
Yeah, I would say the result is just feeling broken.
Okay, but you didn't ever feel like you had done something
No,
wrong,
mine
did
was at
you?
a very young age. So mine was completely out of my control or knowledge. Like, it
Yeah,
wasn't like,
okay.
"Oh, I'm participating in this." So I
Yeah.
feel I can see how that'd be different in different scenarios. When mine created a nervous system of response of like, "I'm scared of my body. I'm scared. Like, this
Mhm.
is unsafe altogether." So
Yeah,
I
no,
feel like
thank you
there's
for answering
different
that.
scenarios.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I have heard of women, like, who have experienced abuse and feeling like they were sinful or dirty before God,
Mm.
and I'm like, "How? Like, it's not your fault, that's so messed
Yeah.
up," you know? And
Yeah.
so, I would add to your answer, which was, way better than mine just because, like, I'm so thankful that I haven't ever experienced that, so I can't ever say that I don't know how that
Mm.
feels, which I'm very lucky for. But I would say, yeah, like reading the Bible, reading Jesus's words and seeing how he treated people who, were abused and also who did commit the sin intentionally, getting to know God and knowing that he doesn't operate in fear and guilt. And then like so this is the spiritual side of what you can do to heal. Just praying and talking to him
Mm.
and being angry, like just being angry about it.
He wants your unfiltered praise.
Yeah. Like, don't think that you can't be mad and even mad at him. Like, I promise you, Jesus can handle it. Like, if you feel upset and like, God, why did you let this happen? Like,
Mm.
why didn't you interfere? Like, talk to him about it. It will be
Mhm.
it's so much healthier for you to just get that out. Don't tell yourself you're not allowed to feel that way. That's something I've learned in therapy. Like, what we feel, we actually can't help. Emotions happen.
Yeah.
And it's so unhealthy to tell ourselves, I'm not allowed to feel that. That's
Right.
wrong. I can't feel this way. I shouldn't.
Well, it's
Just
like
feel
our
it.
emotions are given to us to help guide us. Like if we're
Yeah.
angry, okay, what
Anger's
is
not
this?
bad.
Yeah, what is this telling me? If I'm sad, what is this telling me? If I'm depressed, what is this telling me?
Yeah.
Rather than like, this means I'm broken. It's like, oh, these aren't bad things. They're meant to help me heal.
Yeah. And so on a spiritual side, I would say pray. Like
Mm.
just talk to Jesus about it and ask him, what can I do? How can I heal? How can I turn this over to you? How can I lay this down? How can you help me carry this burden and make it lighter, and then be open, like, and watch for what he does
Yeah.
in your life.
I feel like it's hard to explain until you actually experience it
Yeah.
because it's like the Bible says, like an indescribable peace is what's
Mhm.
promised. And it's like what you were saying of getting to know the word. When you read, that's how you get to know Jesus's character. Once you get to know somebody's character, that's how you trust them.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
feel like that's where that trust, that creates the healing.
Yeah. Well, and trusting too that, like, he's going to make this better.
Mhm.
Like, he's going to make good come of it in some way,
Mm.
and just trusting that alone can be really healing, because it gives you hope, like,
Yeah.
right? And Jesus is hope. It gives you hope that, like, hey, this wasn't for nothing. This wasn't a waste. Like, he's going to, and honestly, I'm going to use the word compensate, because he does that. Like,
Mm.
he's going to, wherever we were wronged, like you, where it's like you didn't have a choice in that, like, he's going to make that up to you, whether it's in this life or the next. Like, you are going to be redeemed and restored. That's what he does,
Yes.
you
And
know?
trusting him with that. It's like what the enemy meant for evil, God turns for good.
Yeah.
Trusting his character.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I mean, that's where I'm at still. This is not an overnight process. Like, I'm
No.
still trying to unravel everything that purity culture has done to me,
Mhm.
and that I've experienced, and it's hard, but I do have to tell myself, like, okay, it's not for nothing, because it's easy to look back and be like, my life could have been so different. I can't go back. Like, and I think regret is one of the worst emotions to
Yeah.
experience, because it's like you can't do anything about it. And
Mm.
that's where I'm like, I just have to trust that God is going to bring me peace. I know it's not an overnight process, but God's going to bring me peace with this, and I will be able to, like, heal and move on, or be able to just move with it. And, that just comes back to, like, what are things, outside of the spiritual aspect, educating yourself about
Mhm.
your body and about, like, the physical responses is also really helpful
Yeah.
to identify what you're going through.
Mm.
So, I hope that helps, like, someone.
Yeah.
Just because, unfortunately, most women deal with some sort of, like, sexual
Yeah.
abuse
And
in their life.
if you're open to it, feel free to send us an email at wildgracepodcast@gmail.com or in the comments to share your experience if you're open to sharing.
Yeah. Of
Mhm.
course, anonymous, like, we would read them
Mhm.
anonymously or talk about them, but this one of the ways to heal most from this is talking about it.
Yeah.
Whether that's with a therapist or just a really close friend or partner, talking about it, realizing that you're not alone in it, that is honestly, I would say, like, the first step to healing is talking.
Acknowledging and
Acknowledging
talking.
it, getting it out, even if it's just to Jesus. Maybe it's the first time you've ever vocalized it. Sit in your car or somewhere private and say it out loud to Jesus, because
Mm.
it really will, you gotta get it out.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, guys, thanks for being here with us. It's kind of a heavy, hard topic, but also
It needs
Jesus gives us so much hope.
Yes, and it needs to be talked about.
It needs to be
Mhm.
talked about. Yeah, and so much more. So, thank you. Remember that Jesus loves you no matter what, that you can't earn his love. It's already there. It's already there. It's wildly there. Thanks so much for joining us today on Wild Grace, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.